What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing this morning? Hope you're doing a little bit better than I am. And if you're not, hopefully, at least you're doing as well as I am. um, Today, I just kind of wanted to turn the camera on. And, the topic that's been in my head lately, I kind of just want to use this channel and these videos to, get some thoughts out. But when silence is your biggest enemy, like what do you do? Yeah. Right? And that's really what I've been, dealing with. It's what I've been trying to cope with lately. Luckily I picked up a job where like it's a grind and I'm constantly distracted. I'm rarely like ever home, which usually people when they hear that, they're like, "Well, this sucks. I'm never home." But when you're someone like me who's struggled with just, you know, mental health issues and anxiety and things of that nature, really the only bad days that I have anymore are days that I have off, or that I'm not working. And here's the worst part is like it's like a double-edged sword because I want to have time outside of my job now to build a business, but when I don't have to work, on a certain day, and silence creeps in, I get super stressed and I start thinking about everything going on in my life, like, and then I'm trying to, figure out the solution for 100 different problems. And the way my brain works on my brain, it moves so fast. I switch between different thoughts and things, so fast. Some people, sometimes it's a benefit, but it's really, man, there's a price you pay when you have a brain that's like high functioning, man. A severe price you pay. It makes it difficult to focus on like one thing. And so when that silence creeps in, man, it's just like trying to keep yourself distracted. It's difficult. And it's difficult. Now I feel like that's what a lot of people are struggling with now. A lot of people are having this issue because the people that I've talked to, that agree with what I'm saying, we all have the same problems, man. Everybody's just they're so stuck on scrolling social media or using YouTube or, playing video games, you know, listening to music, whatever it may be. And I'm trying to divert my distractions. I don't know, like change what I use to distract myself. And that's what I'm going to use this channel for. I'm going to, document my business adventure. I know I've said that in a bunch of videos, but this video is living proof of, how many days I'm losing, because I lose the battle with my mind a lot. And depression, and this depression, that comes from it, and the anxiety is stuff that I really want to focus on and I want to make a difference on it. And it just seems like, the people that struggle the most, they have the most distractions. And when you remove that stuff, like gaming, for example, I used to game for hours on end, and I have no interest in it anymore. Anytime I try to do it, I can play for like 20 minutes at max, and then I can't do it no more. And do I think it's me not being able to focus on it? No, because I used to when I would play, games, I would have something playing in the background to distract myself. But I'm trying not to do that as much. I'm trying not to stimulate, my already high traffic brain, already. So I'll turn everything off and just focus on the game, and the most I can get is like 20 minutes out of it, and then I'm like, I'm done. And that could be just because I played it for so long, and and I find no enjoyment in it anymore, or maybe it's the depression that's causing that. I have no idea. But so I've been trying to remove that from my life, and that has left a huge hole in my day of time that I have where I'm not doing anything. And then when I try to pick up new hobbies, I tried to pick up music production for a while, and I couldn't even focus on it because I'm so worried about everything else that's going on. that it really drains my energy, and I try. So I'm trying to remove, things from my life that I'm using to, cope with being afraid of silence. So I've gotten rid of the video games. I gotten rid of the weed. I don't really do that anymore because I used to use that, to slow my brain down. But giving that up, my thoughts are a lot clearer, and I'm starting to cope with everything and really get through it. But my thoughts are crazy all the time. The weed was the only thing that slowed it down. Sometimes, a lot of times, what would happen is I would have a horrible experience, like a horrible high, and it would just make me super paranoid, which kind of had the opposite effect, which just made my life worse. Which that is exhausting. So once you come down from that, you're so drained because you just spent an hour paranoid about literally everything. So don't do that anymore. Don't play the video games anymore. I don't waste time with people that don't deserve my attention anymore. So I got rid of those people. And then, I'm trying not to watch YouTube as much. I'm trying to just create, and then, which I'm very bad at right now, and I realize that, but I want to get better at it. But I'm trying not to consume YouTube so much and just create. I really want to be a creator more than a consumer, and that's difficult to do. That's the transition that I'm in. I want to move from be consuming everything to just creating, but it's harder than I thought it was going to be, because I have no distractions anymore. And now, it's a battle. It's the battle with silence. Um, which I can't even figure out, how to beat it, man. Silence is the worst enemy. And, I've been battling with this stuff for a very long time. I'm going to be open about it, and tell everybody about it, because I hope, that I can change the couple people's lives, make a change in the world. Because that's what keeps coming back to me, is I have this feeling that my purpose is to make a difference, in this stuff with mental health, and, people who are struggling with, depression, or, just racing thoughts, anxiety in general. I really want to help people manage that, because honestly, dude, the system for this sucks. I went so long without getting help, because I was resistant to it, because I was already convinced that the system, what what we have in place to deal with it right now is not the answer. It's not the answer at all. I don't think it's a medication problem. I don't believe that it's a chemical imbalance or whatever. I don't necessarily believe that either. I believe it is a purpose issue. I believe it's a personality, to purpose issue. Some people, like me and like other people, we're just not built for how society, is. Like just the current form of it, just working your life away, you know, waiting for the next day to come until you get too old to work, and then you retire, and then you enjoy your final years when you're in the worst shape of your life, and then you die. That sounds horrible. That doesn't sound fun to me at all. Like, I don't want to live that life. And the crazy thing about it, man, some people are built that way. It seems like, a higher or more majority of those people are built, to handle this kind of stuff. I'm not, I can't. But I know people that work 12 hours a day at a factory job. All they do is the same task all day, and they are completely content with that. And I wish I was built that way sometimes. I really do, because it's easy. They go and they grab a factory job, and then they just kind of live their life. They work 10, 12 hours Monday to Friday, maybe some mandatory overtime on Saturday, and then whatever time they have free outside of work, they make the most of it. I can't do that. I wish I could. I don't know why I can't. I just need more stimulation. I need to be creative. I need to feel like I'm doing something important. Which you can argue the factory job's important, I mean, it's all they're a cog in the machine, and they're all getting one bigger goal done, providing products and stuff. But to me, I can't do it, factory work of that nature, my brain's running the whole time cuz if I'm just doing the same task, like I can do it, but I need more than that. I can't just sit there doing tasks cuz my brain will start to run. I need something that stimulates my brain. And that's why I work in sales because every day is a new day and every like appointment that I have to go on, it's a different story. It's like figuring out a puzzle, trying to put a story together to, tell your potential customer, and try to get the sale that way. And that's why I enjoy it, and that's kind of what I'm getting into. And I'm get trying to increase my skills at it now so I can be more, what's the word? So I can perfect it as I go so I can use those skills to build my own businesses. And it's a grind right now. And I'm just ranting at this point. So I mean if anybody wants to tell me their stories, go right ahead in the comments. Kind of tell me, how you cope with it. How do you cope with silence if you're somebody that struggles with it? And if you don't know what I mean by, silence is like the worst thing ever, then, like that's fine. That's awesome. But there are people out there that struggle with it. They're going to understand what I'm talking about. And I want to hear from you guys. So leave some comments and I want to talk to you guys later. Peace.